Syria was allied with the U.S. and coalition forces in Operation Desert Storm. But what about today, 18 years later? Is the Assad regime a friend or foe of its neighbors and the United States? Iraqi President Nouri al-Maliki suggests Syria is a foe that can't be trusted. Earlier this month, he lashed out at the regime for sheltering armed terrorists who launched deadly attacks on the Iraqi people. The Syrian government described the Iraqi president's accusation as immoral.
This is big. This is very important to listen to.
Waleed Faris is a senior fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies in Washington. He says Syrian intelligence agents have launched terrorist strikes in Iraq for more than 6 years.
The Assad regime began its warfare against the United States and the Iraqi liberated people at the end of April 2003. As soon as we were in, as soon as Saddam was down, Assad terrorists were in.
U.S. Middle East envoy George Mitchell made no public mention of Syrian behavior when he visited Damascus last July. No demands were made going into negotiations, no preconditions. Elliot Abrams was Deputy National Security Advisor for President George W. Bush. He says the Obama administration's approach to Syria is dangerous because the totalitarian regime hasn't changed its behavior.
It's dangerous because it makes us look like a bunch of saps if we continue down that line and we don't get anything in return. I mean, are they throwing Hamas out of Damascus? Will they finally stop sending jihadis through the Damascus International Airport to kill people in Iraq? What's the quid pro quo?
Mitchell and President Obama believe a comprehensive and lasting peace in the Middle East cannot be achieved without Syria. The U.S. goal is to isolate Iran by drawing Syria away from Tehran and moving the Assad government into a closer alliance with the West. Use Syria to pressure terror groups Hezbollah and Hamas into moderating and joining the peace process with Israel. A negotiated settlement of the Golan Heights dispute leading to a peace treaty between Syria and Israel. Can the United States successfully lure Syria from its friendship with Iran? Abrams says only if Iran is viewed as a regime that is in decline in the Middle East.
Iran today certainly doesn't look as good as it did 6 months ago from the Syrian point of view. I mean, there's all this internal trouble now since the Iranian election. But ultimately, I think you can't take Syria away from a victorious Iran. You can only take Syria away from an Iran that we've beaten.
And what about the Golan Heights? Israel captured it from Syria during the 1967 Six-Day War.
As long as you have this really close relationship, alliance between Iran and Syria, they would have to be crazy in Israel to give the Golan Heights back to Syria. So I don't see where that negotiation goes.
Regardless of potential negotiations with Israel, talks between Syria and the U.S. are proceeding. The countries are exchanging ambassadors, and some sanctions against the regime are being lifted. So the Obama administration is moving forward slowly in establishing improved relations with the Syrian government. And here in Syria, most of the people we talk to say they welcome the improved relationship.
I like to have good relationship between the States and Syria.
We love America.
Iran, no.
No?
No.
You don't like Iran?
No.
They're not happy at all with the regime of Iran. They are secular people. They are moderate people. Most of them are just conservative individuals who want to maintain their tradition. They don't want the Ayatollahs and they don't want the Ba'athist regime. And it is about time for the American public to understand that.
And it may become more apparent to Washington in the days ahead that the road to peace may actually depend more on decisions made not in Damascus, but in Tehran. Gary Lane, CBN News, Damascus.